delighted to be joined today by a true Dublin footballing legend. This guy has won All-Ireland titles at both minor and senior level, 2 National League titles, an All-Star winner and 5 Leinster titles in his playing career. He also helped Dublin as a coach and one of the backroom team from 2004-2008 to win 4 Leinster titles in a row, and we're delighted to be joined by the one and only Mr. Paul Clarke. Paul, thanks for joining us today, taking time out of your busy schedule to have a chat with us. It's Dublin versus Westmeath in the Leinster final, not the one most predicted and wouldn't be the most traditional one that we've had. How do you think both teams got on in their respective semi-finals?
Yeah, it's probably not the game a Dub would want either. You're probably looking for a Dublin Meath Leinster final, certainly from my point of view. Going in watching the first game and watching the first half of the Meath Westmeath game, you certainly thought that Meath were well in control and at half time couldn't see any other result bar a Meath win. But in hindsight, you look at it, Meath played really, really well first half. Westmeath were particularly poor and by their own standards, I'm sure they'd say. And it was definitely what happened at half time in the dressing room. The team talks, I think, were crucial. Westmeath came out with a little bit of vigour, a little bit of fire in their bellies. Look, we don't want to be remembered for a trouncing in this way. Meath, probably a little bit complacent, maybe addressed things differently, and weren't prepared for the sucker punch, weren't prepared for that drive that Westmeath had, and things became a little bit uneasy for them. And I know, a lot of discussion over the black card, Graham Riley, that may have been a bit controversial. That was a loss to them. People might say then 1 or 2 changes from the sideline, taking off Andy Tormey, who would be a score getter for them. Kevin Riley has been injured for a long period of time, had an operation late last year, was only back playing, and Croke Park, hot day, big pitch, maybe the legs just weren't there on that particular occasion, and they lost him again as well late on. They made a substitution, so it's not the results that you would have expected, but in hindsight, Westmeath showed a lot of drive and they finished really strong. So maybe on the day that Meath lacked that little bit of quality, a bit of composure, and then Westmeath showed the drive that was needed to get them over the line.
Okay, and Dublin in there, they were next up. How do you think they
fared?
Yeah,
it's always a tough one to call. When you're playing Kildare again, there's a bit of rivalry there. We're so close on the borders. They're always going to be the hot favourites. How you deal with it, how you handle it, it's becoming a regular occurrence now in most games. But Jim had his game plan, he had it set out. We got our usual name a team 15, and it wasn't the team that actually lined out. And the pluses, the bonuses of players coming in like Michael Dara and Rory and that, it was great to see them. They obviously are performing. It's known that Jim picks teams on performance, how fellas are doing in training. He doesn't pick them, say, look, we need them in here to give them game time. We need them in here to get a result. And then you have to, obviously accommodate your subs, speak to them and say, look, this is the job I want for you coming into the game. And he's able to get that balance. Certainly he's a quality manager. He's got great man management skills, player management skills. So to make those changes and know what he has on the bench, it's a huge plus. But to balance it is the crucial thing, and he seems to do it very well.
Okay, Dublin had a big win in the previous round against Longford, and it sort of started that whole debate again about championship structures and, it being too one-sided. A lot of people are saying they'd like to get rid of the provincials or maybe run them off as a separate competition. For a guy who played in a lot of provincials yourself, what's your view on it?
Okay, I'm old school. Ours was you go out, you win, you go through, you go out, you lose, you don't, And that's the way I always liked it. You had one game and you gave it your all. Times have changed a lot. Back in the late 80s and 90s, there was 4 or 5 teams, year in, year out, were always competing, whether it's Dublin and Meath. You threw Louth into that, were always a strong team, Laois at times as well. So I liked the straightforward knockout competition, and I'm very fortunate to have won a number of Leinster medals. Now I'm looking at players on the Dublin team of double what I have, and I'm envious of them, but they've got the Leinster finals and they're winning them. I would hate for anyone to say to me, we're going to take a chance to win the Leinster medal off you. I just think it's wrong, As much as a Munster hurling final medal or a Ulster football final medal, it's about winning those type of things. It might be your only chance, it might be your one chance. And like if you said to Westmeath, look, you're into a Leinster final, you have a chance of winning and winning a Leinster medal, they'd want that.
Yeah.
If you told them, look, there is no Leinster title to play for, a fella's going to say, no, that's not right, So I think the way the competitions are run is right at the moment. There may be a need for change at some stage later on, but look, the game is evolving, the way players train is evolving, the way the administrators are evolving, the GPA is evolving. So it probably is a matter of time before things will change, but from an ex-player, hold on to what you have and, keep winning Leinster titles, you'll love them.
Okay. You're saying, as you said, you played in a lot of Leinster finals. Do you have one in particular that's your favourite out of all of them?
My first Leinster final was against Meath in 86, and my last one was the last game at Leinster Championship was in 97, and it was against Meath. So I have a lot of rivalry there. I suffered a lot of defeats against Meath. Then we got a nice run of them. Like of them all, I suppose the Leinster final in 95 gave me a huge bit of satisfaction, and the team as well, to win there, to get our 10-point victory. It's sort of cemented something for us that we put some demons behind us that you'd never ever forget, and I still don't. The 4 in a row, you never forget those. And even subsequently, when you're a supporter, and a couple of years ago, Dublin got trounced by me. I think they scored 4 or 5 goals. I took that personally, and I didn't like it, Yeah. So I certainly said, well, they're out getting me back for that 10-point victory. But now 95 was one that I remember. We went away to Navan in our first 2 rounds of the championship against Louth and Laois, and we did okay. We were going in as favourites. We got our results, but it was a punditry type of comment that Pat Spillane said pre-Leinster final, like, when will Paul Clarke ever score 3 points for Dublin again, which I'd done in a Leinster semi-final. And to this day I say he was right, because I didn't score 3 points in the Leinster final, I scored 1-2. So he was right, but I tried to prove him wrong.
Yeah, I remember that goal actually. It was I think it was a Jason Sherlock attempt at a point, and you got up underneath it and punched it expertly to the back of the net.
Yeah, expertly. Luckily, I don't know, but it was in the right place at the right time, and there was a bit of fortune about it. But I was trying to do something, it worked out, and that was it. I was lucky.
You as you say, you played with the current Dublin manager Jim Gavin. You were both on the 95 All Ireland winning side. Did Jim portray any sort of, inkling that he could be a future Dublin manager? Was there any traits there you could see in him that you sort of went, yeah, he could be a manager one day?
No, we played for a long number of years, and when I finished, Jim played on for another while, we would have played a lot of club football against each other. I was at Whitehall himself at Round Towers, Clondalkin, so we still bounced off each other, We had a couple of good battles at latter years, but we've always stayed close. There's always a mutual respect there, I wouldn't have won an All-Ireland title without Jim Gavin, in a team. So you always have that bond with him, and the rest of the players that were in that squad. And then I got to know Jim through working in the airport as well, and his link with the Air Corps and so on, and his move on since. It doesn't surprise me, having worked with Pillar and understanding the role, the responsibility, the planning, the time that's required to be a county manager, county selector. Jim had all the traits and skills, very organised, very calm, would plan and organise every detail to, in a minute detail. So it doesn't surprise me that he is as good as he is, but he's also aware that you must surround yourself with quality people. Like with Pillar, I could see that he wanted certain people to do certain roles. You took the responsibility of it. He gave you the responsibility for it. if you got it wrong, you knew soon enough that's not good enough. You can do better. Like, he never knocked you down and said, like, what are you at? He was always able to say, look, you can do better, go away and do it again. And he always had that quick thinking about it. You know, Jim, I could imagine, is something similar. He has a great guys, and, you know, Mick Deagle and Dick Darcy, you know, Martin Kennedy, the training that they've brought in, that sort of professionalism as well. He has Shep McCormick, who he knows a long, long time, to cover his role and his duties, you know. So you've got to surround yourself with quality people and people you know and trust. And, you know, Jim has done that.
Okay. Dublin, you know, they're going in as red hot favourites in the Leinster final. The same thing happened to them last year in the semi-final, and they got caught out by Donegal. And there was a lot of talk afterwards that, you know, they were a bit naive defending, they were a little gung-ho going forward. On what you've seen this year so far, do you think they've learnt the lessons from last year?
I think they have. I think also the players have matured a lot. Some players have found even better form. They're playing. They seem to understand themselves an awful lot more. Like last year, you probably missed the likes of a Ger Brennan at number 6 to control a half-back line with pace and speed and, you know, scoring intentions. I'd give great credit to Donegal in that regard, that they enticed Dublin to come on. Now, Dublin got the dream start. You got points from Dermot and Paul Flynn, and, you know, it looked like, you know, this could be really a right pushover. A couple of goal chances. And then maybe some players, a little bit of inexperience, a little bit immature, wanted to join in this, what could be a steamrolling event. And it didn't happen that way. So they were exposed then to the counter-attack, and they just didn't have someone maybe to call the shots and control it, you know. So, you know, yes, I think Dublin made one or two crucial errors, but great credit to Donegal. It looked like they invited Dublin on and they were going to counter-attack. That wasn't a fluke that they could counter-attack, have 4 against 2 and get the goals that they got by players sneaking up on the far side, you know. So it was a combination of both. I think Dublin have learned, but I think they've got players now that have matured, which is more important, and, you know, players that can hold their role and understand their role.
Okay, and Jim has tried out a lot of players this year, a lot of young players he's brought in to the squad, and he's given them plenty of game time. Which of those have sort of stood out for you that, you know, should get regular starts, possibly on the senior team?
I could rattle off names, I could name people, and, you know, I wouldn't like to put any pressure on them, but certainly Brian Fenton has been a revelation. Like, I just like everything that he does. He is the archetypal sort of midfielder or half forward. He has height, he has strength about him, he's very composed left and right foot. You know, he's got goals, I think, in his first game coming on as a sub, and he's been kicking points since, and he looks the part. Again, I'd say Jim is managing him very well. I'd say he's coaching him very well and tutoring him very well. That doesn't mean he's going to start the next night, doesn't mean he's going to start in future matches, but certainly the way he's playing him and managing him at the moment, he's doing very well. You know, the likes of Kieran Kilkenny, who's coming back from an injury, looks like a different, I'd say, animal. Like, I thought he looked very lean the last day, and he was really, really good in the first few minutes of the game. He was unstoppable. You know, there's guys just must be chomping at the bit. I'd say training matches down there must be as heated and as strong and as good as training matches you're going to have, you know. As I said earlier on, it seems to be that fellas are maturing. They're maturing at a good rate now. Last year was something that they can learn from, and if they haven't learned from it, you could make the same mistakes this year. It looks like that they have learned from it, you know.
Okay. Everybody's going to have Dublin as red hot favourites for you know, to retain the Delaney Cup, with not many people giving Westmeath much of a chance outside of their own camp. Is that a fair reflection, and what do Westmeath need to do to sort of, you know, scupper everybody's already coronation of the Dubs as Leinster champions?
Oh, Westmeath they are a good side. They look like a big, strong, physical side. I know Tom Cribbett is really only his first year with them, because Bealo another ex-Dub and a good friend of mine, was there before. So like Beale probably would have set a structure in strength and conditioning, bringing players, trialing them, and Tom Cribben comes in and he adds probably to that. He puts his own slant on things. There seems to be a bit of consistency about what they've been doing. They haven't lost. Maybe Desi Dolan is gone, but they haven't lost players that have had 4 or 5 years experience. So they're coming to a bit of a forward. They're probably after learning from previous managers, as I said. They're learning from what's required to reach the top. They probably set out at the start of the year saying, look, let's have a good league campaign and let's reach a Leinster final. When they seen the draw, they looked at it as the perfect opportunity. The opposite side to Dublin, let's get to a Leinster final and see what happens. And, they would take a huge amount from the last day. They know they underperformed in the first half and they know they finished strong in the second half. So there's loads and loads in them. John Heslin is one of the best footballers I've seen out there. Like his handling, his shooting, his free taking is exceptional. I think you're probably more used to seeing him further out the pitch, but Tom Cribben has decided, well, if he's out the pitch, he's away from a scoring zone. If he's out the pitch, he's taking too much responsibility and he's probably shooting from too far. There's no fullback around, or a fullback line would like to have to mark him, and Dublin will have to have something in place to make sure that a Rory O'Carroll or a Davy Bourne doesn't have to be isolated with the likes of him. And then obviously a couple of little changes they made, playing a centre back, pushing him up forward, and it was a series of strong goal threat. And yet he had composure to punch 2 points towards the end of the game, which I think were the winning scores. So now Westmeath will be up for it. They know they have nothing to lose, and wouldn't be nervous at all. You might think, we're playing the Dubs, we could get a trouncing. I don't see that being the case. And if Dublin aren't really switched on and tuned in, and they know that, well, we can't shut up shop after 15 minutes or 15 minutes to go, we can empty the bench. They know they'll have to go right to the end because Westmeath will go right to the end.
And it'd probably be good for Dublin as well to have a good challenge like that as well, looking further on down the line. When they go into sort of the knockout stages of the championship, they've had no real challenge for the last number of years. It would be really good. It'd be good for Westmeath as well if if it was a ding-dong battle between the two sides on the day.
Yeah, well, every game you go into, you always hope, whether you're a neutral, whether you're a Dub or whether you're a Westmeath, you want a competitive game. You want, high tempo, high pace. You want a team that will throw different challenges at you, whether it's the way they line up, whether the way they defend, how they attack. Do they play a short ball, do they play a long ball, or do they hand pass, or do they foot pass? So, they will do research on them. But on the day, the players themselves will have to look at how Westmeath come out against them and how they make a decision, how they line up and maybe readjust themselves accordingly. You can't always get the information from the sideline from your manager. You look at the camera, turns onto Jim Gavin most days on the sideline, and he's involved in the game, but there's no gestures, there's no pointing, there's no roaring, there's no shouting. He gives the players a responsibility to make decisions how they're going to defend or how they're going to attack based on what's coming at them. And I think Westmeath are going to throw something different. You're not going to get the blanket defence now, you're going to get this shutting up shop type of thing. I think Westmeath will give a different challenge to Dublin. That's exactly what Dublin need.
Okay, from your own point of view, what do you miss most from your playing days?
I always loved the training side of things. There was players and I played with who were just natural footballers, and it looked like they never had to train. I had to train a lot to push myself harder and faster and further than to show that I was capable of doing a job that I was asked to do. I loved the training and that those Tuesday and Thursday nights that you put practice in and you meet your mates. You might have had a bad day in work, or you might have had a row with a girlfriend or something. You were going to training and you were in a place that you felt comfortable, but that wasn't going to be for long because you knew you were going to get it tough. The naming of a team, when you think, well, I think I might be in here. I was in the 15 in the warm-up match, and you know, on the Thursday night. But when the team is named, there's a great feeling as well, you know. You know, I think players nowadays miss, well, they don't miss because they never realised it was drive. We used to drive to Crow Park. We used to park down near Mars pub and put a bag in your back and walk up Clondiff Road. The likes of that was just second to none, you know. And you would get the thumbs up or a little smart comment from an opposing supporters or something, and they were brilliant. And you know, I'd miss them a lot. You know, I missed them a lot.
Are you a good spectator, or do you get very nervous watching matches?
I'm not a great spectator. You know, I'm not a great. I like to look at not off the ball stuff, as in the bad terms, off the ball stuff. I like to see what players are doing, as the game is going on at the other end. You know, to see how they're addressing certain situations. Obviously I like to see the skills of the game at the highest level. You know, there's nothing like seeing a guy climb over another fella and take that big catch. Few and far between nowadays with kickouts and keepers, you know. You like to see the balance and speed like a Dermot Connolly or even an Alan Brogan or a Bernard Brogan shows. The tackling that some of our Dublin defenders do nowadays is just superb, you know. You see their stand up, their work and tackle with strong hand and getting blocks in. You know, I like looking at those rather than the whole aspect of the game, really, you know.
You're still very much involved in the game. You coach the team down in Ashbourne. You've also served, you know, on the backroom team under Pillar Caffrey. Any ambitions to one day take over the Dublin senior manager's job?
Look, you know, I had a good innings as a player. I was very fortunate then, you know, coming from a club, Whitehall, Column Keels. I was player manager for a while, so you know, I learned a bit then. And it was the great Dave Billings actually came to me one day. I was actually cutting the grass up on Whitehall's pitch in Cloughren in a tractor. And he said, you do a fair amount of work for the club. And I said, well, look, you know, all hands on deck when you're trying to keep your club going and you're trying to provide the best facilities for players, you know. And it was subsequent to that, Dave contacted me to say, listen, would you go in on a management team with Pillar? I was very young to get that opportunity, but like I just couldn't turn it down, you know. And I was very, very fortunate. I made, you know, great friends with Pillar, Ski Wade, Brian Talty, Davy Hendricks, Tony Boylan. The list is endless. I'm good friends with John Murphy, who was the physio at the time, or Jerry McIlvany. Those actually few years with Pillar, believe it or not, were nearly better than my years of playing, because I was more mature. I appreciated more who I was with and the time I was spending with them and what they wanted for Dublin to achieve. Now, we were unfortunate. We never made the All-Ireland final. We had our chances. We probably blew it once or twice. And, you know, it was great subsequently to see the lads achieve something. But as soon as we were gone, players turned their face to a new manager. I had a number of managers, starting off with Kevin Heffernan was my first manager, you know, and finishing with Tommy Carr and John O'Leary. Players soon forget their managers, and they look at the next manager. You know, and I understand what's needed and required to be a Dublin manager. Look, I'm enjoying my life. I'm newly married. I'm doing a bit of coaching. I have a good job. My family, my parents are all fit and well, and I don't know whether I'd want to put them through the anguish of being on the sideline, watching games. But look, never say never. You know, only recently Tomás O'Shea, who's newly retired from Kerry, and he says, God, I wonder will the phone ever ring from Eamon Fitzmaurice to say, will you come back? I'm 20 years, like it's 20 years this year since we had our All-Ireland win, and we're having a reunion very soon. I still think when I see my phone ringing, it's Jim Gavin. He's saying, could you do a job for 5 minutes at the weekend? But instead it's like, will you do something else, or how's the reunion going on? I still think I could do a job playing, never mind going managing, so it's madness.
Yeah,
that's the way it goes.
And finally, before we let you go, I need to ask you, give me a prediction on how you think Sunday's Leinster final will go.
Yeah, I think, you know, the starting team from the last day really deserve like a start again. It probably is, you know, possibly our strongest 15 when all players are playing well. But nowadays the game is a 20 or a 21 man game. You know, Jim will do his research. He'll look at Westmeath. I'm sure they were looked at the last day. He'll go back over any league games that he can find, and he'll be fine-tuning the lads. I'm sure training's going to be intense. You know, you just don't want fellas to pick up injuries at this stage of the year, or this stage of the week leading up to the Leinster final. I just think Dublin will be that much stronger and fitter. Although it's going to be close in that aspect. I just think they might have the one or two more scoring threats that will make the difference. And experience, I think, too, not of the 10 and 11 Leinster medals that Stephen Cluxon has, but experience of, you know, a bad defeat last year, and fellas are learning. And knowing, well, look, we get through the next day, please God, you're back to where you were last year, and hopefully push on again. So I think a Dublin victory. I don't think it's going to be huge. I don't think it's going to be one of these 15 or 20 points, but, you know, maybe 5, 6, 7 points.
Okay, that's great, Paul. Thanks very
Cool.
much for joining us. Thanks very much.